Hello, everyone. Welcome to Everything Iconic. I have a very special guest. She's the reigning Dancing with the Stars champ. Of course, people know her from Bachelor Nation. Kaitlyn Bristowe, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, thank you for coming. I'm curious. Well, first of all, congratulations on the Mirror Ball
Thank you.
trophy. What was it like competing in that process during the pandemic? Was it nice to kind of have something to do and keep your mind off things?
Yeah, it's funny as I just said yesterday when I got home, I'm like, oh, this is what the pandemic feels like because I kind of got used to something to do every day, being around people because we were all having to be tested every single day. It was like became part of my routine. You go there in the morning, you get your nose swabbed, you go dance, you see everybody. It totally became just like a regular everyday thing. And when you do something for over 3 months, it does really become a routine. So coming back home, I thought, oh, I'm so excited to go home and relax and not do anything, but you really feel it when you come home. So yeah, it was nice. It was a nice distraction there for a few months.
Has your body recovered from all of the trauma it's been through?
No, I had to go get x-rays 2 days ago because my ribs feel broken. I can't even, when I drive, I go to do a shoulder check and my ribs just go into excruciating pain. My feet are beat up, but I would do it all over again.
Oh my God. I asked people to write in some questions and somebody had mentioned that there was a rumor that there was some drama with contracts because of Bachelor Nation. Maybe you weren't able to do Dancing with the Stars. Was there any truth to that, or what was that all about?
Yeah, that was 5 years ago. So that was after I came off of being the Bachelorette in 2015. And what happened was I got offered to go on Dancing with the Stars, and they had actually, Trista was the only other Bachelorette that had ever been on. She was on the very first season of Dancing with the Stars, but she went home, I think, week 2. And so they had never had a Bachelorette since. They've had the Bachelors, and I was offered it. And I didn't, I didn't grow up in the TV world. I don't understand reality TV. I don't even understand entertainment contracts clearly because I didn't check with the higher ups at, on The Bachelor and the Bachelor franchise. And I, of course, said yes to this opportunity because of my love for dance, because that was, something fun to do next. And of course, I said yes. I signed the contract. I was going to be announced on Good Morning America as one of the new contestants. And the Bachelor franchise was like, actually, you're still under our contract. You can't just go do anything you want to do right now. And they suggested, not doing it and focusing on my relationship, which I had just gotten engaged. And looking back now, I'm so glad they didn't allow me to go on then because I was in such a different place in my life. And I truly believe in timing and things working out for a reason. And I just wouldn't have been in the same headspace then that I was now.
It's funny you say that. I've been starting to wrap my head around this idea of things happening when they're supposed to, and it's been sort of a tough lesson for me.
It's hard to understand when you're going through certain things, or if you're in the thick of it, or I've tried to believe in that kind of thing for a long time now, but that doesn't make it easier when I'm going through a tough time. I'm not like, oh, well, I'll see the reason for this soon. You kind of got to figure out those life lessons and get to them and then be able to look back and say, oh, okay.
Yeah. Talking about reality TV, it's so fascinating to me. I'm new to the world of Bachelor Nation, and I'm so fascinated by this idea of people's relationships and love life being so exposed, really. And it's such a vulnerable part of all of us. What's that been like throughout the years to have your relationship? And also, do you feel like people expect you to always be so open with your relationships?
Yeah, I'm a very open book. I like being an open book. I think that's why I was able to go on a show like that. It didn't mean it wasn't extremely vulnerable and scary and hard to do. And you're exposed is a really good word to say it because that's what it feels like. And of course, your dating life looks so different from somebody else's dating life, and they might not agree with how you date. And it's a wild world to be a part of. But I don't know. For me, there is a fine line, I think, for sharing too much. But again, you go on this show and you have to understand that you chose to open your world to allowing people in to be a part of your love life and your journey in relationships. And I think why people like Bachelor Nation get so attached to the show and attached to us as contestants or leads or whatever is because it's very relatable, and you can see, you know, things that you would do or things you wouldn't do. And they get really invested in who you are and how you live in your love life, especially. So I think you just have to kind of be open to that and understand that that's what you signed up for, kind of thing. And that's just going to be part of your life now.
Yeah. And do you keep up with the show, right? You're watching
Yes.
this season right now. So I want to ask you some questions. What do you make of the beginning of the season with Claire and Dale? Do you think they're going to work out? Did you have a problem with Claire maybe not opening up as much as people would have liked her to?
I have a theory on this, and
Yes.
my theory is that Claire, they know Claire. Claire wasn't new to the franchise. They know who she is, how she works, especially when it comes to relationships. And when it comes to love with Claire, she just goes all in. She can't hide. And like, you know, I feel like she'd have to have time compartmentalizing relationships because she was so lasered in on Dale. And I think they knew that, and they weren't surprised because, sorry, my dog's growling.
Okay.
Robin, come here. Because everybody that goes on this show, and I can say this because I've been in her shoes, you do get laser focused on maybe one or two, and that's just the nature of the show. The thing, I'll use your word again, is she was just exposed for it because they had this idea to turn the tables and bring in a new Bachelorette. So I think with Claire, it was like, they could have done that to me because I was like, well, it's game over night one. I know who I'm picking. They could have done that to me, but you still have to make a season. They took that as an opportunity to bring in a new Bachelorette and have Claire find her love story. And I truly think that they have a chance at working out, because I think a reason that so many Bachelor couples don't work out, Ramen, stop growling.
Oh, okay.
I think a reason so many Bachelor couples don't work out is because it's a very terrible foundation to start a relationship on. You meet someone and that night you're like, well, I'm also dating 25 other men, and I'm going to take those relationships as far as I can. And then I'm going to take it to the fantasy suite, and then they're going to meet my family. And then at the end, I could pick you. And then it's like, that's a terrible foundation to start a relationship where Claire and Dale don't have to go through that.
So do you think it was kind of, I don't want to use the word set up, but sort of set up by producers that they want to, yeah.
I think they saw it as an opportunity to, you know, it's a pandemic. They're having to kind of work with what they've got too. This is, nobody's done this before. So they're like, how do we shake things up? And I think it was an opportunity for, I've never sneezed on a podcast in my life. That's okay. Random.
That's okay. Bless you.
But I think they saw it as an opportunity to kind of shake things up. And you know, I was part of a season where they had two Bachelorettes, and now they got to do it in a different way.
Oh, I mean, I can't imagine the contestants are filming at that La Quinta Inn for so many weeks. It just seems like a nightmare to just be stuck on those playgrounds or whatever.
That would be the hardest part. It's already hard enough, you know, to be on that show, and you do feel isolated because even when you travel to these beautiful countries, you can't just go explore. You could only go explore if you're on a date and you're around everyone else. Otherwise, you're stuck in a hotel room. So to be there and not know, like, okay, well, my date today is going to be something on this resort. Like, they did really well with what they had to work with.
I keep also imagining just when Claire, before she left, I was just imagining all of these straight guys just sitting around the La Quinta Inn talking to each other and like having the most boring conversations.
Totally. And they feel like, I mean, they really made it feel like they didn't know Claire at all. And they might have even been a little clueless to how this show works. So it was really interesting at the beginning.
Okay, so who do you like in terms of the guys? I saw on Twitter you said this is maybe like the best group of guys they've had, and there are some really good gems in there. What do you who do you think Tayshia should pick? What do you think of the men?
Yeah, I think this is now that we're getting to see who these men really are, I feel like they're such a good group. I feel like they all have like emotional maturity. They're able to have really deep conversations and things that matter. I feel like they all are like a little bit older than what we're used to seeing on this show. And it's really coming through with, like I said, like the maturity level. So I'm really enjoying all of them and their conversations. I feel like it feels like one of the most real seasons. And I keep saying that Tayshia seems like she's done this before. She has been like an absolute pro at this. She feels very comfortable and natural and vulnerable and all the things you'd want to see in a Bachelorette. And I'm just such a fan of Brendan.
I like him too.
And her connection with him. I think he's gone through he's gone through similar things as her. He has a really good sense of humor, but he doesn't even realize how funny he is. He seems like an absolute sweetheart, and I'm totally pulling for him right now.
Yeah. I really fell in love with Ivan, I think, last week.
Yes.
He's like a little young though. I think he's like a little young. He needs a couple more years, and then I feel like he'd be the perfect man. But I really liked him. I
liked Ivan too. That's a good point.
I mentioned some questions that people wrote in. Laura McCallum, she wants to know what your thoughts are on people sort of pushing the show to be more inclusive and challenging it to evolve a little bit in terms of like the diversity on screen. And also she says, what role do you think former contestants should have in pushing the franchise forward?
Yeah, I love that question because I think it's not been a secret to the world that there wasn't enough diversity on that show. I think people said it every season. I think it was always something they were lacking. And it's like kind of my thought process is it's about time that they evolved with what's going on in the world. So I love that they're getting on the right track and doing what's necessary. And like I said, I kind of said like, well, yeah, it's about time. I'm really good friends with Rachel Lindsay, and she's been pushing the franchise.
I love her.
Oh, she is?
Yeah, she's the best.
Literally one of the coolest, nicest, humble, just like, she's a great human. I really love her. And she has done all the work by herself to push the franchise, it felt like. And there was actually a batch diversity petition going around that a fan started. And a lot of Bachelor Nation and contestants that have been on the show and former people that, leads and everything, we all got behind it and signed it because it's not trying to boycott the show. It's not trying to say like, oh, we're against it. It's trying to help them. We're trying to help them and encourage them. And I think actually a lot of people have come forward and tried to push the franchise as they should. So
because it seems like you guys care about the show. I mean, I've had Rachel on the show, and she's, like you said, kind of, I think trying to make the show better. And one of the things I mentioned on the show is like, there's so much of Bachelor Nation. I mean, we're getting a couple cycles a year at some point, plus the games and the other spinoffs. Yeah. And so it's like, I don't understand why we couldn't have more diverse shows while also continuing with our white leads and everything like that. Like just opening it up more. Cause I'm looking at it as a gay man. I'm like, how have we been through this many years and not had an LGBTQ person amongst all these cycles? Like, I'm not saying get rid of the other people, just like, let's add in another one.
Exactly. You're just saying like, keep up with the times in the world and what you want to see. Like there's so many of us that sit at home and want to see that. And I think like with Demi, they kind of opened that door, which I loved. And I just feel like they're getting on the right track. I mean, obviously everyone has a long way to go, including the show, but they're working on it, which is good.
Right. Troy R. is wondering if there's any fun, wild interactions with Tyra on Dancing with the Stars. There was all this stuff about Tyra. Like some people really did not like Tyra as the host. I personally think Tyra is unhinged and beautiful in everything she does.
I love her.
Yeah. What do you think?
Well, people just don't like change. People don't like change. And that show has been very consistent for however many seasons, 29 seasons. And I just think people get really shaken up when things change. Like if Chris Harrison left and they brought in a new host, nobody would like that host because it's not Chris Harrison. They're kind of the face of the franchise. So I think that was the drama. But Tyra was one of the most lovely human beings off camera I've ever met. She would call me. She would call everybody once a week, once every couple of weeks, check in, see how everyone's feeling, like a genuine over the phone conversation. Because of COVID and the pandemic, it's not like we could, hang out with her or really like get close to anyone that's, she would wear a face shield sometimes when we were doing dry runs and all the things, because that was just, a wild time to be a part of a show like this. But she was really, I felt like she cared, and I felt like she cared about the people on the show, the cast, the crew. She really felt like she was stepped in as like part of the family.
Yeah, she's such a huge star. I think it's almost impossible to ask her to just sort of be a background person in anything. But it was interesting. It was interesting to watch. Let's see. Allison Salzberg says, "How was it working with Artem? And also she adores him and Nikki Bella. Are they as nice and down to earth as they seem?"
Yes, I love Nikki. I'm actually such a Nikki fan. I had her on my podcast before I even went on the show, before I was on Dancing, and we kind of did each other's podcasts. And I remember coming off of the podcast and going, oh my gosh, she reminds me of me. I feel like we could be really good friends, or like she's just very down to earth. She's very funny. She's real. She's as real as they come. I adore her. So when I found out that Artem was going back on the show, I was like, oh my gosh, I hope I get him as a partner. I love Nikki. I think that'd be so fun. So I was really excited when I walked in and saw his face. So yeah, working with Artem was one of the most challenging things in a good way that I've ever done. He like warned me when I came in and started. He's a perfectionist. He's very strict. It's how he grew up, and it's how he was taught, and he sees the benefits and he saw the potential in me. So he pushed me harder than anyone has ever pushed me in my life. He challenged me in ways that I've never been challenged. And I think he believed in me as a dancer more than I did. And there were times where I'd leave crying. There was times when I'd leave laughing. There was times where I didn't want to do it anymore. There were times where I was like, I'm never leaving. This is what I love to do. It was definitely a roller coaster. But at the end of it, looking back, I'm like, I don't think I could have done that with anyone but Artem. Like he pushed me in all the ways I needed to be pushed to get to where I was.
It seems like such an intimate show. What do you think is maybe more intimate? Is Bachelor, the world of The Bachelor, more intimate filming, or is Dancing with the Stars?
Definitely Bachelor. I mean, I obviously have nothing to compare it to on this season of Dancing because I've never been on the show before, but there's producers in there, camera crews, but everything was just like, like I kind of forgot I was on a show at some points because there's just like Big Brother cameras also like throughout the dance studio. And if a producer wanted to say something, they just came over an intercom, and it felt almost like Artem and I were like it was very just student, teacher, this is what you do, head down and you work. And we really used all 6 hours, 7 days a week to really get to where we wanted to be in that dance studio, where Bachelor is like, you're having very intimate conversations. It's very romantic. Everybody's kind of there. And then you go into a room after and you talk about your feelings to somebody. And it's very different.
In terms of Bachelor Nation, it's no secret that the fandom, not just in Bachelor Nation, but I cover Real Housewives on the show, and it's like that fandom can be very toxic as well. I think people love these shows so much, but how do you deal with sort of the toxicity you get on social media? I mean, I see so much of what reality stars get online, and it's a lot.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I just posted something last night on my story, just something I got in my DMs, because I'm like, man, the hate that goes on in my DMs, I mean, there's so much love and it outweighs all the bad. And I try and respond to so many positive messages, because those are the people that are, I have two businesses. I have a scrunchie label, I have a wine label, I have my podcast. And those are the people that support you. And those are the people that are voting on Dancing with the Stars. And those are the people that you just want to have those conversations with. So I try and focus on that. It's taken me a lot of time, because I think naturally as human beings, it's hard for us to respond to, oh my gosh, you're so pretty, or you're so funny, or you're so great. It's hard to say, thanks. Like, I don't know, it just feels weird, where if somebody is bashing you and saying mean things, you feel like, oh, well, they must be true, or is this what people think about me? And that's just how we function. And I have tried over the last 5 years to really switch my mindset, and it has taken a while, but I feel like I'm finally in a place where so I can admit that sometimes these things hurt my feelings. I can admit that sometimes they piss me off. But overall, I actually can find some humor in it now, and also a little bit of sadness where I'm like, are you okay? What is happening in your day that you are so invested in my appearance or what I'm doing, or if I'm drinking wine? Like, why are you so invested and angry about it? Like, it says so much about them and not anything about me that I've tried to just shift my mindset about it a little bit. But it does, I'm not going to lie. Like, when they hit you in those places where it hurts, it still hurts.
Yeah.
It's
and
just,
you focus on that one bad thing. Yeah.
Oh yeah. All the time. It's very easy to do that, but you just kind of have to, I mean, it's hard because I don't know if a lot of people, like listeners of the podcast and stuff, I don't know, if they get hate in their lives like as much as people from reality TV. So it's hard for people to relate to that and not just say, well, ignore it and move on. And I get a lot of that. People are always like, oh, just ignore it and don't give them the energy.
Yeah,
but you're like,
impossible.
I want to stand up for myself. I don't want to let people talk to me like that. And I want to teach them a lesson sometimes where maybe next time they'll think twice about saying something nasty to somebody.
Yeah. I've said this before on the show, but it's like with reality stars, people almost think that they don't see any of it or that they're allowed to say anything. Whereas when it comes to like a TV or movie star, it's almost like they're so far removed that people don't even send in the mean comments as much. I don't know if that makes sense.
Right. Like they're like untouchable where we're reality stars. So we're supposed to be real but they still treat us like we're a character on a show. Like we aren't real people with real feelings on the other side of the phone. Yeah.
What's going on with Jason? People are invested in that. What's happening there?
Yeah, he was honestly just my rock through Dancing with the Stars because I think it would be hard. Like I try and always put myself in somebody else's shoes. And if he was gone 6 hours a day, 7 days a week, dancing and then coming home so tired and just wanting to sleep, and I would be like, come on, this sucks. He was there every time with a glass of wine. He would rub my feet. He would make me dinner. He was doing his own thing because he has his business Restart that he's been working on. And I've never met a hard worker like Jason. He wakes up and he is on a schedule. He's used to corporate America. That's what he used to do. So he's a very structured kind of person. He needs that routine and he works hard. And so he was really great. And yeah, he's just been working away at his own business and he's working on a book deal. And he really he's a very motivated man. I think he should get into motivational speaking because he's so good at you'd want him to be in your corner. He's such a good hype man. He's so motivational and he's just an all around really, really good human.
Kaitlyn, it's nice to see you light up talking about him. It seems like when I asked you that question, you have such very clear, obvious affection for him. And that's just in any sort of human. It's nice to see that when they feel that way about their partner.
Of course. Yeah, he's amazing.
I ask everyone these questions. Number one, what's your favorite Mariah Carey song? And then also, if you're choosing for People Magazine, Sexiest Man Alive, you can't choose Jason. You got to choose
that's fair.
Actor or someone who would you choose?
Okay, favorite Mariah Carey song. Oh my God, I love Mariah Carey. What's that one? Oh, every night. Fantasy.
Fantasy, so good. Yeah.
Fantasy is my favorite Mariah Carey song. And then Sexiest Man Alive, I would probably say Paul Rudd.
Oh, he's a good choice. Yeah.
I love
him.
He's
a good choice. Kaitlyn, this was so fun. Tell everyone about your businesses and your podcast and all of that stuff.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I've had so much fun. The wine label has been, I think, the thing I'm the most proud of because I didn't realize how much work was involved in creating your own wine label with manufacturing, production, all the liquor laws and everything that goes into it. And it's been quite the journey so far. But again, people just are so wonderful and supportive. So my wine is called Spade and Sparrows. You can get it online. We've just got a new cab that came out that people are loving, which makes me so happy. But I have a Pinot Noir, a cab, Rosé, and Pinot Grigio. Everything's on KaitlynBristowe.com. You can also
what do you
buy
love
my
the most?
there.
If you had to pick one of those.
Well,
to watch The Bachelor, which pairs best with The Bachelorette?
It's a tie for me between the Cab and the Pinot Noir because I love Pinot. That's my favorite kind of wine. But this Cab is up there for me. I'm going to pick the Cab. I'm going to pick the Cab. It was really, really good.
I've been doing this thing during quarantine where I'm like really pairing my drinks with my shows, which sounds so silly, but it's like we have to sort of entertain ourselves right now, right? It's like I can't go out to the bar. But I'm like, this would be perfect for The Bachelorette.
You painted a good picture there because I was like, ooh, because if I'm like on a patio, I'm going to pick rosé. But when you said watching The Bachelor, I'm like, oh, red wine. But yeah, everything that I do, like my podcast, my scrunchies, and my wine label is all on KaitlynBristowe.com. But our socials are really fun and interactive, and we try and make them all funny because I love humor. So Scrunchies is at Do Edit, and wine is at Spade and Sparrows, and then I'm at Kaitlyn Bristowe, and then my podcast is called Off the Vine, and we basically just drink wine and have fun conversations and play games.
That sounds perfect. Kaitlyn, thank you so much for taking the time to stop by. I want to encourage everyone, if you're watching this interview on YouTube, to go like, comment, subscribe, all of that stuff. And if you're listening to the podcast, thank you all so much for listening. Kaitlyn, this was a delight. Come back anytime. And I look forward to seeing what's next. You're doing so many different things. It's
Thank
wonderful.
you so much. Thank you for having me. It was fun.
Thanks, Kaitlyn. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.